Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit, what was the most ducked up place you've ever stopped at? Someone ordered pizzas to a funeral. There were a ton of people there, all somber and dressed in black while I rolled up in my bright red greasy t-shirt lol. Definitely one of the most awkward experiences I've had. I delivered to a drug house a few times. It was always obvious that these guys were selling using, but it's never bothered me as they usually tipped well. This one time I got there, rang the bell and a baggie of, I'm guessing coke or heroin. I have no idea, slipped under the door. Not sure what to do, I decided to kick it back under the door and leave. Not super ducked up, but I think about it a lot. I worked as a delivery driver for a very small Italian restaurant pizzeria during my first semester of college. This one time I delivered pizza to a swingers party. It wasn't like on the set of a porno or anything. He straight up told me when I was like having a party, because he ordered 12 pizzas. He answered that this was his first swingers party and he just wanted to be sure everyone was having a good time. I once delivered to a guy living under his porch, if that counts. I drove up to the house. It's pitch black. No lights on. I look at the ticket and it says use back door. I go up the steps and no lights on. Nothing. Then I hear a voice from below me say, hey, down here. I look under the porch and there's a small door leading into what looked like a makeshift apartment. I had to actually crouch to get to it. Gave the guy the pizza and bounced the duck out of there. I didn't end up delivering the pizza, but the address was an abandoned house. It was around dusk and the house was so obviously uninhabited. I could see trees growing through the windows and the backside of the house was crumbling so badly I could see to the backyard. From the street, the instructions were to come around back. I double checked the address after locking my doors, called the customer a couple of times, called the store and told them what was up and why I wasn't delivering the pizza and headed out. I mean, seriously, who would have been dumb enough to go to the back of that house? I was delivering chicken, KFC, not pizza, but my worst stop was pathetic. Really, I knock on the door. I hear a kid yell, I got IT. He opens the door and runs up the stairs yelling to his friends, the chicken assholes here. The chicken assholes here. After which a crowd of about 8 preteens at the top of the stairs start throwing change down the stairs at me to pay for the delivery. I asked if they could hand me the money. They laugh and just throw their quarters, dimes, etc. harder. So I picked up the bag of food, winged it up the stairs at them. It hit the wall, and I split. Told the boss what happened, and if they call to complain I won't listen or apologize. I'll just quit if he brings it up. I found out later he did get a call and told them to get stuffed. Good boss. IDK if this counts as ducked up, but it always makes me laugh when I think back to it. I delivered pizza to a house where an older guy walks out in a robe sorta mumbling. I hand him the food, he hands me a 20. I tell him it's 24. He mumbles okay and waddles back into the house. Comes back and hands me another 20. I go to my pocket to get change and he slams the door on me. I also once delivered to an older woman who tells me to come in the side door. The food is about $34 and she hands me what I think is 40 and is really sweet, asking me how I'm doing and all that. I get back into my car and realize it's actually $60 and 2 of the 20s were sorta stuck together. I go back into her house to let her know and she says, oh, I know. It's for gas and whatever else you might need. I always remember that lady because it was just such a random nice thing to do and really made my day. The one where they tried to pull me in the house. Not coincidentally the last delivery I ever made. Every hoarder house I ever delivered to. Honestly, I feel for those folks. There's usually a mental issue that starts it. Sometimes it's just learned behavior. Either way, it's still just sad to me. Used to deliver part-time in a not so nice part of town. Used to do a regular delivery to an adult bookstore. My 18-year-old mind was blown the first time I went in and saw all their 6 toys and it hanging on the walls. Another time I delivered to a room at a hot sheet motel. Dude opened the door and while he was counting out the money I saw a naked hooker sit up in the bed behind him. I have to. We had a regular that was saved in the computer as Mike from around the corner. Whenever I delivered he was super ducked up. On more than one occasion I had to let myself in because he was playing his drum set with his headphones on or completely ducked up on booze or drugs. One time he was passed out and drooling on the coffee table. Called the cops but he was okay. I saw him a year later at his day job and he didn't even know who I was. Was never sober when we delivered. The other one was a Nazi house in Huntington Beach. Big 4-bedroom and the place was always crawling with white supremacists. Always answered the door without shirts and displaying tattoos. Always a style. They wouldn't tip unless you were white. GPS led me to my city's hospital. After getting directions from a lot of employees I finally found the room. I'll admit now, I really should have paid more attention to the signs but was in rush and didn't bother. Luckily there was a nurse already in this lady's room. I was just going to walk in and drop food off when the nurse starts shaking her hands and rushes to me. No, 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 you can't come in here. This is isolation. Oh, I'm sorry. She ordered a delivery. She went back in the room and asked the lady if she ordered delivery and I heard the lady say yes. I overheard the nurse tell her you should have told me. Nurse comes back to me to grab food and told me if I had walked in the room I was not be let back out or something along those lines. Threw me for a loop, haha. I will pay more attention now, I promise. So while I was an undergrad, I worked as a pizza delivery driver. I had a delivery to a dodgy part of town with a delicious pie. When I got within a couple miles of the residence, a local sheriff's deputy got in front of me. We made all the same turns. Then as we got closer, another got in front of him and one behind me. I start freaking out a bit as I'd been smoking some weed. But carry on. Finally, we all get to the same residence which is totally surrounded by police in riot gear. Guns drawn. All that it. I get out with my pizza and discover the house I'm supposed to deliver to is the one with SWAT out in front. One of the officers waves me off and says, he's not gonna need that today, and they proceed to breach the door. To which I return to the car with a free pizza and get the hell out of there. They were added to our do not deliver list but I don't think we ever heard from them again. 1. Extremely large man naked on his bed telling me to come in. I yelled that I wouldn't like to do that and he replied, oh, it's a girl. Why'd they send a girl, as if we knew the situation there. 2. Delivered to a trucker in his rig. Berated me for having a single nose piercing and colored hair because he had a son with all them piercings and all he does is drugs now. Then the man texted me, can I ask you a silly question? I had called him to find his specific rig for the delivery. I ignored and blocked him and he called the store asking for me specially to return and bring him a specific sauce packet. My manager said no and had me stay in the store with the crew until it was time to leave. 3. One woman answered the door in a thong and asked where another delivery driver was. Told her he wasn't working. She replied, well, he knows to always do mine for me. Again tried to explain that he was not present in the store that day. Later found out he was dealing while delivering. Probably many more. Pizza delivery is a rite of passage in my opinion. A whorehouse. Lady who received the pizza was masturbating at the same time. I delivered to a paper supply office back when I was 16. The manager obviously had issues when I couldn't use his coupons over a big order that wasn't applicable for. He locked me in the conference room the entire duration of the office party and eventually paid for the pizzas. But still a pretty annoying situation overall. I drove to the customer's house and saw that a guy was being handcuffed by the police in the front yard. I had no idea what to do, so I drove around a neighboring block a few times. When I came back, the police and handcuffed guy were gone. I didn't know if he was the customer or not, so I just walked up to the door and knocked. An old couple answered and took the pizza and paid and didn't say anything about the arrest that happened on their lawn. It was in a city with extremely low crime rate as well, so it was very strange to 17-year-old me. I made a delivery to a motel that was known for drug dealers users staying there. After I get there, the guy acts like his order is wrong and gets me to call my boss because he was hoping to just get the order for free. While on the phone with my boss, she told me not to worry about getting the money from him and to just get out of there ASAP because she was worried about me. I told her I would be fine and she didn't need to worry and I would see if I could get them to pay. So after talking to them for about 5 minutes, I actually get them to buy the food they ordered and give me a tip of 3 or 4 clonopins, which I was really happy with. Also, the guy wanted me to sell meth for him, which I politely declined. The whole time I was talking to them, my boss was blowing up my phone trying to get me to get away from them. It does mean a lot that she cared enough to do that. I worked at Domino's and we had to blacklist a guy because he was obsessed with me. He would come in and ask if I was there. If I wasn't working that day, he would just show up the next. If I was on a delivery, he'd wait around in the store for me. He would tell me that he loved me and ask me out on dates. He was very bad on heroin and made it obvious. The last time I delivered to his house, he ordered about $40 worth of food and drinks, and kept trying to hand me $100 even though I told him numerous times I didn't have the change. He apparently stole his grandma's cell phone and wouldn't give it back, and him and his cousin were screaming at each other the whole time I'm waiting to get the smaller bills he kept telling me he had. He had nothing smaller than a $100 and he kept arguing with me because he changed his mind and just wanted one pizza and a drink, and I told him I couldn't do that. It was outside of town on a dirt road with tall trees. Every house was basically just plywood shacks. There was broken down cars and trash everywhere. The entire neighborhood just reeked of a B-rated horror film. I find the right house and walk up to the door, but it was just a blanket, so I had to yell pizza. They come to the door and grumbled. It was a haggard looking man wearing boxers and a dirty white tank. Something felt wrong as he handed me a bill that looked washed. I held the $100, with old Ben Franklin's face on it, up to the light and could clearly see Abe Lincoln in the paper. They had ordered around $50 worth of pizza and wanted change. He tried convincing me that he went to the bank and they gave him that bill. I asked him why, then wrong face was on there, and he said that's how they do it. I said hell no and drove away as fast as I could. We stopped taking orders that don't have street roads. Funnest job I ever had. But man, the I saw and went through. The most ducked up delivery had to be when a woman answered with her huge beautiful Siamese cat. I love that breed. So I ask if I can pet him. She says yes. I bend down. The cat purrs, rubs against me, all the usual signs of liking it. So I stand up to finish giving this lady her pizza. The cat lunges and bites me above my right eye, and wraps all four limbs around my head. Panic. Freeze. WTF do I do? WTF is going on? Why isn't this lady helping me? I grab this demon cat from hell by the front legs and just rip him the duck off of me. As I do, my contact lens pops off. All I can think is that it's eye skin coming off of my eyeball. I throw that ducker down and just freak out at the amount of blood that starts pouring out of my gash. The woman brings me into her house and puts a towel on. I tell her she has to take me to the emergency room or call 911 as I can't see to drive myself. After all, it was her cat who attacked me. She drives me to a minor place. I get stitches and a tetanus shot. She foots the bill. Never see her again. Boss wasn't happy that I missed the rest of the night, or had another order in my car. Duck that cat. At church, $834 order I delivered solo in the rain. Humped all those pizzas for a good 30 minutes back and forth from my truck to the altar, got soaking wet, all for no tip. There was a massage business that kept ordering pizza from us. With one of their orders were potato wedges that came with sour cream. One of them had trouble finding said sour cream. Having a bunch of scantily dressed hookers yell at me for sour cream was both hilarious and frightening. Not exactly a ducked up place, more like a ducked up tip. One guy tipped me with a beer. I was 17. All it did was freak me out. Another guy tipped me with a marijuana leaf. A leaf. You can't smoke that. It has to be processed. Thanks everyone. Till you don't smoke the leaf, you smoke the buds. Yeah. I had a delivery to a normal address, but 2 blocks away from it a guy on a bike flagged me down. Asked if I was a delivery guy and said it was for him. He gave me his phone number and it was his order. We don't have those signs on the top of our car, and I was in a busy suburb, so I have no clue how he knew it was me. I was tipped in acid once, as in LSD. Nobody attacked me with acid. One lady always tried to get me to take out her trash or her mail. She was a regular too and never tipped. One old fat dude answered the door without a shirt and was super nonchalant about it. My first day, some guy asked if I wanted to rip his bong. There's another lady who is a regular and I refer to her as the Moustache of Doom. It's a fun job though. Not pizza but kebab. Last summer, random summer job to help paying bills at home. I don't work there anymore. I delivered to a house. They were selling drugs on the back window of, not weed, heavy drugs. They tipped me $5 on a $15 order, gave me a $20, told me to just keep the change. Doubt he even knew how much the order was, so I decided to pretend I hadn't seen anything and just drove to the next place. Guy who paid me looked like he was quite high. I delivered pizza in a slum during high school. There was a lot of duct up it, but the ones that really bothered me were delivering to junkies that had multiple young children just living in filth. There was one particular junkie who was always barely conscious and had like 4 kids living in squalor and eating probably nothing but pizza and soda every day. Also, these junkies always had some idiot enabler, usually their parents, ordering the food for them. So it was 50/50 on whether or no they even answered a door or were otherwise aware of the delivery coming. I wasn't delivering pizza, it was fancy pastries, to a mansion in Benedict Canyon. At the crack of dawn, there were a bunch of drunk, naked, middle-aged women. They didn't tip. Every time I had to deliver to extended stay hotels it was the worst. They usually never tip and it's 95% of the time a weirdo. There was one regular who looked like he never left his room. He would crack the door and tell me to leave the pizza on the ground after signing the receipt. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but eventually we stopped taking his orders because he never tipped. The guy at the door slowly opens it armed with a rifle. I asked him if he had ordered pizza, and his reply was like, "Oh yeah, I just wasn't sure that it was you." Between pizza, social work, soldier, census, government field data investigator, I've seen some it. Most of the pizza stuff is just people without pants, or really intoxicated and stuff, but that stuff just turns into same it different day. I don't even know where to begin tbh. My all-time most weirdest fav delivery though that I can think of right now was finding a regular who was drunk late night playing golf on a golf course. Dude always tipped like a boss, so I had no problem playing the game with him. Wasn't hard to find. He was the only guy there and was loud as a tank. I could understand how some other people might not have been as keen as it was a dark out of the way place. I was a pizza guy in the late 90s. At the time, I was a big pothead. I lived with my parents, so I usually kept my weed with me so they wouldn't find it. So, I'm delivering one night with a ½ ounce in my pocket. It was triple bagged so no one would smell it. Pull up to this house and as soon as I get out of the car a German shepherd in the backyard starts going nuts, barking, pawing at the fence. This dog didn't like me. I thought nothing of it, cause it wasn't the first mean dog I'd encountered while delivering. Knock on the door and a state trooper answers the door in his uniform. My heart immediately sinks and I'm ducking terrified. I realize that's not just any dog, that's a canine. But the cop just rolls his eyes, pays for his pizza and I went on my way. I don't remember if he tipped. Delivered pizza for a while in high school and college. Never anything too sketchy. Used to deliver all the time to a level 3/6 offender. I never felt too threatened as an 18-year-old, but the guy gave me the absolute creeps. He lived in a tiny condo, linoleum floors and cheap furniture like he had the same everything since the 70s. He would have me bring the pizza in and close the door behind me. There was a few seconds I'd be putting the pizza down with my back to him. It sounds rather mundane typing it out, but I can't really think of another time being around another person and being so absolutely creeped out. I never knew the exact details of his crimes, but the implication was kids. It sounds wrong to say, but I feel like even if I wasn't told before the first delivery, I still would have come back to the shop and said that he probably has a kid's head in his freezer. A really classy hotel that's barely in our delivery radius. I had a total of 3 deliveries there. 1. Went in and told the front desk I had a delivery there. They sent me up without checking to see if anyone ordered. 2. Went in and they called the room I was going to deliver to. It was empty. They then called the guy's number. We print it on the delivery slip in case something happens. He answers. Tells them that he didn't order any pizza. And even if he did, he's all the way in Chicago. This is all happening in TX. Still no idea how those events transpired. 3. Got an order and was told to deliver to the hotel bar. Pull up and see the lady who ordered was standing at the front desk. The person working the desk was on the phone with my manager over which store was supposed to deliver there. Lady ended up getting her pizza free, and she tipped me $12. I have yet to go there since.